Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to When We Walk. This is a podcast where we discuss the kind of questions we all ask as we walk through life. My name's Micah.
I'm Shireen.
Let's chat.
All right, Joran.
You got a game for us?
Yes.
Always.
This one's a little bit more simple. I have some hot takes. Do you know what a hot take is? Where it's like something that's kind of controversial.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Or it's like an
you
opinion.
Say that like you really, but did you know?
I do, because I remember having a conversation with Connor Elliott about this, and I thought a hot take was just my opinion on something that might not agree with everyone else, but it's a little bit more of like kind of a controversial.
Well, that's a good way to describe it. It's not like crazy. It's more just like funny. Like a lot of them are food related, which I feel like a lot of people have food related.
Oh, nice.
So I'm going to say it and then you can tell me if you agree or disagree. And if you agree with it, then you can argue why you agree.
Okay. All right.
So you're going to read a hot take.
Yeah.
And then we have to see.
And if you have any of your own, then feel free. But the first one, I don't know if you've heard this one, but I've heard it more recently that hot dogs are a sandwich or a taco. I've heard both.
Oh, no way a taco.
Yeah, I don't agree with either.
A taco is very clearly a taco.
Yeah, a hot dog is just a hot dog, but I've never thought about this.
What makes it a sandwich?
Right, because like a sub sandwich is kind of in the same
it's a sandwich
form.
Mm-hmm.
But
hot dogs have lived in their own world.
Their own
hot dogs and hamburgers kind of go together.
Mm-hmm.
And a hamburger is a sandwich, and so hot dogs are distinguished from.
I wouldn't even call a hamburger.
You wouldn't call a hamburger?
I don't really. A hamburger is a hamburger. It's different. I don't know. I definitely don't think a hot dog is a sandwich.
Definitely no way it's a taco.
No way it's a taco.
I don't think it's a taco.
Food group. And that is not.
No, that is not a taco.
In fact, if I'm correct, I think in Spanish-speaking cultures where they eat tacos, I think the way they do hot dogs is they cut them up and put them in like beans and rice, right?
Oh, in some places, I think we've had that before.
I don't think they put it on the bun. Anyway,
interesting.
Okay, so the final verdict is it's neither.
It's neither.
That one's wrong.
That is our own hot take on that.
Okay. Soup is just a warm smoothie.
Oh.
No.
Now, I kind of relate because
I know where you're going.
I do not like soup for a meal.
Okay.
I don't. Like, I'll do a smoothie for a meal. I do not want to do soup for a meal.
Really?
I don't want to just
You
drink.
don't.
But do you like ramen? I feel like
ramen.
But ramen is not a smoothie. That's what I'm saying.
What about like blended, like broccoli cheddar?
I can't do that as a meal. Like, unless I have a ton of crackers or bread, or sometimes you'll make a soup that's like a lighter soup, but you'll have like the meat that I can like addition. Because to me, it's all about how hearty it is.
Yes. We've talked about this because you and Danny Woodhead have disagreed that soup is not a meal.
It's not a meal. Count. It's a starter.
So maybe they would both say that it's a smoothie because it doesn't fill you. But because I know this about him, I have to make soups that are super hearty. I fill them with, what veggies do I have? I'm throwing it in. How much meat can I put in this? Beans, whatever it takes to make it so hearty. Mm-hmm. I do not think it's a smoothie because I put so much stuff in mine.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a weird smoothie.
Yeah. So I disagree. Wow. It's not a hot smoothie. Okay. Maybe gazpacho, even though gazpacho is not hot, it's cold.
Yeah.
Maybe potato soup.
But see, I guess I would agree with it more so that where it fits in my diet is kind of the same place where smoothies fit. Like, it's a good supplement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fries should be an acceptable breakfast food.
100%.
No, can't.
What?
I knew you would say yes.
Yeah.
Because you'll put like eggs on old fries from the night before.
But what about like hash browns?
Yes, it's the same.
Or like
potato,
potatoes,
right?
Yeah. It's like the same. It's just the way it's cooked.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's so different to me.
I mean, I'm not dipping my fries as a side with ketchup. I'm
Chick-fil-A.
Like, but
it's like a bed similar to hash browns, and I put a runny egg on it and maybe some sort of sauce or cheese.
Chick-fil-A, let's just say, they have hash browns and they have fries. and they serve the hash browns in the morning. They have fries after 10:30. So they're not serving any fries before 10:30.
You're right.
And they're not serving any hash browns after. And so Chick-fil-A does it right. I would say fries are not a breakfast food.
Okay. We disagree.
Yep.
Okay. This one's kind of, I feel like it's an old one, but pineapple on pizza.
Oh,
yeah,
I like
go
it.
there.
Yeah.
I can
you
go
do
there.
like
100%.
it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like it.
And then this is the last one, and it's not really a food one, but I thought it was funny. People who don't like dogs are suspicious.
100%.
100%.
Except for if you've been bitten by a dog.
That's true.
That's understandable. If you have a real reason, like you got bit by, I have been bitten by a dog.
You have.
When we took a walk, some guy's dog just reared over and bit me.
Really?
I was like, I was so startled.
Traumatized you.
It a little bit did. There's still like when we take walks and someone's walking with their dog, if the dog looks a little bit scary, I like walk on the other side of Micah. But I do think all in all, shouldn't people love dogs?
Yeah, and they're man's best friend.
I mean,
so if you don't like them,
I am way more suspicious if you like cats.
Too many cats.
I am way more suspicious of you if you like cats. I'm like, what is it? Because cats are weird and mean. Dogs are so nice. For the most part, dogs are nice.
But we have a dog who acts like a cat.
We do have a dog that acts like a cat. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she is very much a cat.
She does what she wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Perches where she wants to. Mm-hmm. Has an attitude. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, those are good.
Those are good. Okay. Thanks, Joran.
Yeah.
Also, all the talking about food, we haven't talked about this publicly yet, but we're on day 15 of Whole 30.
Mm-hmm.
And that talking about all that food made me like, oh my gosh.
I have no emotional relationship with food right now whatsoever. It is just fuel to get me through the day.
Oh my gosh. We're going to get through it though. Mm-hmm. It's going to be so good. Mm-hmm. It has been. Anyway, that'll be.
The benefits have been good. The experience has not been enjoyable.
Really?
Yeah. Do you disagree with that?
I don't think the experience has been terrible. I think right now I'm struggling to kind of find things that still feel exciting to eat because we're eating a lot of the same things.
See, I gave up on that. I'm not trying to find.
Which you're okay with doing. I like the creativity of like
fake cheese to me and fake.
Well, you're not really supposed to do that on Whole 30.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But some people do. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is a challenge. We'll talk more about it when we're on the other side, and then we can share what we feel about it. We're not emotionally ready. We're trying to get through it. Okay, so something that we've always we've talked about. I don't think we've ever talked about it publicly. One, because I think we still feel like we don't have a lot of advice to offer people with parenting. People ask us parenting questions a lot, and I think we're like, listen, we're still in the throes of it. We're learning. But I do think there's something with having that we've learned kind of over the years. I remember you helped me kind of with some perspective when I was taking on a job full time of this isn't just about you and your career and where you're going, but
our family is
not just about you as, supporting man of the house, supporting your calling. There are 6 humans in our home that God has unique callings on their lives. And our job as parents is to help steward all of it while we're going after the things God has called us.
Right.
But also identify, listen to our kids, hear what their interests and see what their giftings and talents are. And then also our job is to help steward their calling. Mm-hmm. And I remember when you first said that was kind of like helpful and eye-opening to me of, wait, that's a different way to view parenting, especially when it comes to what I feel like we're in a maybe kind of a kid-centric parenting world in a sense, where we shift our whole lives for maybe one or a few kids in our family who show a lot of giftings and talents for a sport or a skill set that we think that they can If they can either do really, really well, get a college scholarship, get into college, get college paid for, or even go beyond.
Yeah.
And make this a career of some sport.
Give everything to try and steward or uplift their children's callings or potential callings. Yeah.
And then a lot of times, sometimes that works out well for the families. They've made that decision to do that. And then other times we see the kid burn out because the parent put too much emphasis, or the kid moves on and one or both parents are left with, oh my gosh, who are we now? What is my purpose? And so I think there's a beauty to looking at it, especially as believers, of, okay, no, we have a family of 6, whatever your family unit number is. We have a family of 6, and there are 6 unique calls and callings from the Lord, and talents and giftings that God is going to use.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Yeah. And so I think too, like early on, before we really we could hold that as a philosophy and a principle, but we weren't really having to live it. Like
when they were little, you mean?
When they were little.
Yeah, no.
It was easier to talk about than it has been to do.
Yes. Now we're in a season really hard. More challenging.
Yeah. And when you're younger, as parents, it was almost easier to like a little bit critique and even be judgmental of parents who just like spent their whole lives driving their kids from thing to thing and all of that, and think, oh, we're not going to let, our kids' hobbies, interests, activities
become
like completely
run
our lives and find all our identity in that. And yet you get into this season of life and you realize the season we're in with middle schoolers and high schoolers, that you want your kids to have activities, you want them to have passions, you want them to have stuff. And so it's kind of for us, we're now getting to practice what we've always held as valuable. And, I think it's important to say too, like, it's not just us stewarding and celebrating the different callings. And that's kind of
I know that
you
feels like a big word.
Like just their interests, their personality, their giftings, their talents.
Right.
It's for us as a whole family to do that.
Right.
And so we've learned how to, I think, and don't do it perfectly, but
no, we don't.
For what works for us as a family, how do we both create opportunity and create space? And I think that's 2 ways to think about it.
That's good.
Creating opportunity, meaning, celebrating the things that somebody wants to go after, talking about how it fits in the family schedule and where it fits in the family budget and where it fits in the family flow of life. So creating opportunity, but then also creating space, meaning that one person can't hog all the space.
Right.
One person's deal can't be, everybody else has to sacrifice for that one person. And, but we have to all create space, which means we can't all have it all. And I think there's some principles that kids will gain if you do it that way. If you say, actually, you can't do these many things.
Right.
Because we want you to have space to go and cheer on your sister when she's doing her thing.
Yep.
And that's just one example. So creating opportunity and creating space, I think, is a tension that keeps, I think, a family in a really healthy place.
Yeah. I think that's good.
If you focus too much on the space, then nobody's doing anything. Or you focus too much on the opportunity, then you're going everybody's doing everything.
Yes. Separately. And then you're making yourselves crazy.
It's just kind of the drop off. We'll see you later. Or it's this kid's doing that and this kid's doing that. And they never, their paths never cross. So I think creating both of those things is one way to think about it that has kind of worked for us.
I think thinking about it first, when you have young kids, I think one of the mistakes we did make was like, we started throwing kids. Do you remember we put Hutch in soccer way before he was ready?
I know what Saturday you're going to reference. He just got completely run over.
He got totally trampled.
Like stampeded.
Literally. It was so hard to watch as a parent. And then I think the rest of the game, I did take a picture of that. He stood right next to you holding your leg the whole rest of the game. Yeah. And I think we came home and had a check of like, how old was he?
I don't remember, but
couldn't have been more than 3.
Too soon. Yeah.
3, somewhere in 3 to 4. And now when I see parents put 2, 3 or 4-year-olds, I'm like, is it worth it? Is it worth like starting that this early?
Well, and they may be doing it differently now than they did
probably.
back then. But
it was a bad situation.
The full-on game was a bit intense. Yeah.
Yes, and these kids wearing cleats too. I'm like, they don't need cleats when they're 3.
Yeah.
But I think that was an aha for us, because then we had our oldest, Laylee. She was pretty advanced for her age. Mm-hmm. She read super early. She could memorize things, and putting her in a dance or a little theater class brought her to life in a way that we realized, like, oh, wow, I think there's something here. And then turns out we're 10 years, 12 years later, she still loves the same things, loves to be on stage, loves performing. It is a joy for her. And that was worth putting her in, and she could handle it. Mm-hmm. And it was manageable in that younger years phase. Mm-hmm. But then our younger ones, they didn't show any signs. We put Hutch in too early. We learned our lesson, and we waited with our youngest a lot longer until she legit started saying, hey, I want to try soccer. She kept hounding us, and we kept saying, not till school, not till you're in school. And we had a kind of a standard for that. We realized, like, they just need social things. They need some fun little things to just see what percolates to the surface for them. Yeah. Just because they are really good at kicking a ball in your backyard doesn't mean you need to get them lessons right away to start playing soccer. Yeah. Or they can catch a ball well or throw a softball really well. Doesn't mean that you need to get them in right away. And so I think in those younger years, being slower and more thoughtful, and maybe choosing one area as they get older, I think we learned a little bit along in those years. Wouldn't you say?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I think you kind of learned every family's different. I think that's important to understand too. Like, we can do a lot of comparison.
Right. This is just how we did
it with families, but every family's different scenario with it when it comes to your financial resources, your time, mom and dad's jobs, and the interests that the kids have. I think kind of putting that all into an equation and coming out with what's possible, like what can we actually do and what can't we do, and be okay saying, yeah, we'll try this, and being okay at other times saying, you know what, we're going to have to say no for now. And I think no for now helps. We've had kids over the years where we've said, hey, this season,
that's a no for now.
It's not going to work, but maybe next season it will.
Yep.
And one of the things that happens, you've got to think about what are we really cultivating in the hearts and minds of our children within the home that they are raised in. And I think one of the downsides to really just like, we're going to abandon all, we're going to, at any cost to ourselves, to our bank account, to our relationships, we are going to give you every opportunity for success. What it can actually do in some of our kids is it can feed a very self-focused mentality.
Yes.
And then they begin to enter into life from the perspective that everybody serves me and my interests and my purposes. And then they enter into adulthood and say they are really successful. I mean, have you heard the stat? I think I can connect this. It just came to my mind. The stat that we've talked about this in the past, that when an actress wins a Oscar.
Yes. If she becomes an Oscar winning actress. Yes.
Yep. There is usually at that moment, if within like a year after that, a break
usually get
if
a
they're
divorce.
Married, usually a divorce comes
it's
right
true.
After that.
It's pretty
success does something to us. And if it
makes it hard for us to, I think, stay in relationship with other people who want success as well.
It can. And that goes both ways. It can be the person experiencing success who says, hey, y'all should serve, like I'm making it right now, and everyone needs to drop what they're doing and help me make it. Unfortunately, for too long, that has been kind of the mindset around the man in the house.
Yeah.
Or the minister in the house. If it's, I've got a kingdom calling. So everybody needs, because this is the priority in our home because he's a pastor. And that's what we've tried to work against, me being the man and the pastor, to say, hey, everybody's role in our home is not to serve me and my calling. So A, the person experiencing maybe the success. 2, the person having to create space.
Yes.
For that person's success can also cause the ripple. So it's not always like the actress is not the problem. It's that marriage may not have been set up to handle two people's
successful people.
Yeah. And I think that's often what we see in the world is when success, when gifting, when talent comes to the surface, it either steals or it divides. And I think going back to what I was trying to say at the beginning, when you help your kids from an early age understand you're a part of a whole ecosystem here where we're creating opportunity and we're creating space, that when they enter into adulthood, they'll be able to do that too.
Yes.
And life won't be all about them. Yes. They'll learn how to create space for their spouse or create space for their kids.
Or friends too, like being able to celebrate friends in their friend group of what they're going after.
True, yeah.
I think no matter what community you're in, then you learn to support and celebrate and not turn it all back to you. And so then, hopefully if they have a family, would do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think we have, I think you and I knew from the beginning, some of this was just in us. We both grew up in families where both parents worked. And so it was modeled to us, both parents going after their own calling. And they were different. And there were seasons where I know we've talked about it. Your dad was out of a job, but your mom left space for him he had to go to a different city to work for a season. And yet still, she would take you to all your soccer stuff. And, my mom changed her career halfway through. And I remember her going back to college and we adjusted for that. I remember going and helping her with her college project. She was becoming a teacher. And then we'd go and help her set up her classroom. Like it became all of us. But then my parents, showed up for cheerleading things that I did. And, we would go to my sister's stuff that she would do and celebrate her. And so we grew up in families that did this. So a little bit was already in us in starting our family unit, just the two of us. So I think it was already in us a little bit to say, okay, how do we make space for one another? We did that in different seasons of, you helping me find some calling when I was struggling, or, making space of the decision to move to Omaha for a job for you. And, but always knowing that God's going to open doors for both of us along the way. Even, we might be leaning towards yours in one season and leaning towards mine in another season. And then the same with kids, like one kid's season might feel a little heavier and we're all leaning that direction for a little bit. But then to say, okay, well, your sport season is slowing down or over. Now it's, this sibling's opportunity, and we're going to ask that you do everything you can to adjust your life to come and join and cheer on your siblings. I think that was the biggest thing we learned. We learned this from another couple who said the same thing, like they were only going to let their kids choose like one season sport.
One thing per season.
One thing per season, so that the siblings can also go and cheer. And I think that's it's really good to have your family say, no, we're all going to go support this person and what they're doing, and celebrate them and cheer them on. And then they learn to go and support their siblings. And I think what's fun is we've watched with our kids, like they now a lot of times will choose it. Like Laylee, I didn't even know she was going to come to Sarah Chambliss's volleyball game the other day. And she calls us, she was like, do you have money to let me in? And because we've created that of like, we support one another. And if you are able to, if you're not working or you don't have something else going on now that y'all are older, will you make space to come and support your siblings? And it's fun to watch them encourage one another, ask, hey, how you feeling about that game today, or that audition, or, that performance. And they ask each other, and they're aware of what each other has going on. They're not just focused on themselves.
Yeah, I think that's really great. So that's some of the fruit of it. Let me just throw a challenge to you and see how you would respond. How do you navigate the kids' requests and they're can I do this? What if I don't get to do this? Because ultimately as parents, we get to make the final decision. But what advice would you give that we've learned along the way when it comes to hearing the desire of their heart, but not always giving it to them?
Yeah. I think for us, I'll say it this way, we've tried different things. We've let them try. Right. On like a rec level, or, hey, we can do one dance class and see how you feel. We can do one instrument lesson and see how you do on that for a short season. And then we'll evaluate. Right. So if it fits, we find the season where it can fit. I think of Laylee. We let her try volleyball. I think we knew this was not going to be her thing, but she begged and begged and begged. And a lot of kids' reasoning, we have to understand, isn't because they think they want to be the best. They just want to hang out with their friends.
Be with their friends.
They want to do it with their friends. So if that is a good enough reason, sometimes let's just let them be with their friends, and not make it that they have to be the most successful in it. We knew she was not going to be the most successful volleyball player. She actually did not care. We asked her to practice all the time in the front yard, and she's like, nah, I'd rather read a book. Who she is.
Yeah.
But she had a great, fun year doing it. It was not a ton of investment money-wise, a little more investment time-wise. And I think we were a little like, she doesn't seem to care, but we're having to put a lot of time into it. But I think on the back end, we came to a conclusion with her. I think I'm done. That part of my career is done. And so together, we all kind of said, we're going to leave. This is where we were going to create space and opportunity. We're going to let her kind of discover. We kind of knew. And instead of just shutting her down, we made room for it. We celebrated it, but we realized this isn't it. That's fine. But then I think there are other seasons where maybe even you and I didn't always agree. Like there was not long ago where Laylee wanted to do like 2 performing things, like programs, and they would have filled her life so much. And I wanted her to do it. I was like, she's so good at it. This would be so fun. I love watching her perform. And it would have been very expensive. And I remember you saying, I just don't think it's wise. And we talked through it with her. And even though I wanted her to do it, we both came to the conclusion, we're going to tell her, I think you need to make a choice. And instead of just crushing one of them for her, we left it. We just told her, you need to make a choice. And I think she was 15 at the time, you need to decide this or this. And it was hard. And she was sad for a while. But then she got over it. And we all moved on. And there's a little disappointment at times, but then you're always like, but God will eventually open the door that you need to walk through.
And I think too, it gives you the platform to have some like adult level conversations with your kids about things they're interested in. So I remember one year, going back to her again, where she had kind of accumulated quite a bit of things that she was
She's our oldest, so it's easy for her to kind of keep picking things up.
I can't remember if it was going into 7th grade or going into 8th grade, but there were some other things that kind of bubbling up that she was wanting to get into. And we just said, okay, if you do this, then you can't do this. If you do this, you can't do that. Like, let's pick, I think it was like, let's pick 2 of the 4, or let's pick 3 of the 5,
right? Because it was like music and dance and theater and a sport. It was a lot of things.
And so it helps them to then have to, because life is a series of trade-offs. We say that all the time. Do. Like, if you're going to do this, you probably can't do that. If you want to be this, you probably can't be that. Like, we can't do it all. And it helps them early on understand how to make thoughtful decisions, how to understand, how to be wise with their time and their energy. So that later down the road, when you do maybe have to say, actually, we're just going to,
there are times
say no to this one.
And we have had to do that at times.
They understand because they've been there with this conversation before. So I think it's important on a regular basis to sit with your kids and discuss it with them. It's not just mom and dad going into the bedroom and saying, okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're not going to do. Come out to your kids and say, here's the verdict. But it's in the same way that it's creating opportunity and space for one another. It's also creating the conversations that allow for that, and pulling them into those conversations.
And
how would you feel?
Yeah, letting them see
wait a season,
how we make a decision.
Right. Yeah. And I think it sets them up for the future. I think lastly, is I think it's important for us as parents just to have kind of on a heart level, what are we really wanting to see in our kids' lives?
What's the deeper goal of what you want developed in who they are? Yeah. Because ultimately we don't just want them to be the best guitarist, basketball player, theater artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's something more.
Yeah. There's something like, what are they actually gaining through those activities? Yeah. Do they have time in their life to still have a spiritual life? I mean, that's the most important.
Yeah. We've always told our kids, if it conflicts with youth or your youth life group, we're going to probably tell you no, or we're going to really push you to make a thoughtful decision on that.
Create space for Jesus in your life. Like, you've got to do that. So having a healthy spiritual life, having good relationships, having kind of the internal makeup to be able to be a good adult, like make choices,
leave room for work. We value our kids having jobs once they turn 15.
Yeah. So having some conversations on the parent level about those things, and making sure you're on the same page of like, what are the things we want our kids to really have space for in their lives, and then bringing them into the conversation as they get older, I think helps. And now, say all that to say, we haven't done it perfectly. We've learned a lot along the way. But I do think that principle of we are all trying our best to lean into each other's lives,
right, by
creating opportunity, space, and conversation. I think down the road, I'm hoping it'll pay good dividends.
I hope so.
Yeah.
We'll see. Right. We might be saying very different things.
It's early for us.
10 years from now. So, yeah.
It's great. Awesome. Well, hopefully that's helpful for those of you who are in the parenting phase of life.
Yes.
As you make these decisions, they're very real, and we've all got a lot to do in terms of trying to help our kids really understand how to navigate the world around them. And this is one way to do that.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks for being with us on When We Walk